Short-term mating is not something that you have to remember. The short-term mating, like the way that we understand short-term, like alpha fucks, beta bucks, has always been women's innate mating strategy, dual mating strategy, right? But we haven't contextualized it the way that we understand it today in the 21st century and really the latter half of the 20th century, since the sexual revolution right around 1965, when one invention sort of flipped the tables on us, which was hormonal birth control. That's when, once we removed the risk to, relatively remove the risk of pregnancy from sex, that's when the balance between men and women changed. And that's when we began to realize that hypergamy, in the sense that it is alpha fucks and beta bucks, women looking for not only marrying up, but also fucking up, or wanting to fuck up. There's a desire to fuck up, and then there's the actual ability for women to fuck up. And I mean that in a sense like they're fucking up the hierarchy, the male dominance status looks hierarchy too. As I keep saying, and this is kind of more to the looks point here, is women wanted to go see the Aquaman movie, not because they're a fan of the DC comic book character. They wanted to see that Aquaman movie because they wanted to see a shirtless Jason Momoa on that movie. And your grandmother is now suddenly a big fan of Justice League. Okay. So it's not that dynamic has nothing to do with, oh, I want to get a better mate. That is, I want to see this guy shirtless so I can fantasize fucking this guy. Why are those women? Why are they videotaping this? Imagine this. Imagine a hot piece of ass is walking through that same corridor on the beach there, and she looks like Corey Yee, man, or she looks like she's just got these huge fucking 600cc tits, and she just looks like a fucking beach goddess. And she's walking through that. She's in a thong, and she's walking there. Can you imagine what would happen if those fat guys were there with their phones doing one of these things? Can you imagine? Can you imagine what the response would be if that made TikTok? What would happen? Well, I can tell you what would happen for women. It goes viral. I mean, oh my gosh, look how good looking this guy is. Oh, good. Yeah, I would be doing it too. You go, girl. If a guy, if you reverse if you flip the gender script, if you put a really hot girl, black or white, I don't care which one, like walking through there, and those guys have a camera on them, they are lecherous perverts. How can you believe these guys? No one says jack shit about the women. Why is that? Because of the dynamic that you're talking about right here. Because they don't care. Do you think that they're going, I wonder if this guy is single and he wants to have babies and get married. I wonder if I could mate switch up from one of these fat fucks and get with this guy because he looks like a much better prospect for my future long-term security. Do you think that that's what's going through those women's heads? No, it is not. And it's entirely acceptable for women to do this. Entirely acceptable. Guy does that, punished for doing something like that. So short-term mating has always been about opportunism. So to answer your point there, or to your point, short-term mating is about opportunity, because hypergamy cannot afford to miss out on a perfect breeding opportunity. And there's one invention that has made that a possibility for modern women from the late 20th to the 21st century, and that is hormonal birth control. That's why you're seeing this. It's not like this is something that it's not some new development. It's just that women's hypergamy has been unfettered by one invention and has changed Western societies, plural. And so what's the evolutionary reason for that is because because you got to remember this. So a woman who is, say, let's between the ages of 18 and 29, I'll open it up even a little more. 18 and 29 years old if that's her window of opportunity, and let's just say that woman is like, she peaks at 23, like I always point out in my graphs and stuff like that. If that's the window of opportunity in a woman's life, because after that, it's like, okay, she better get out. She better find somebody to settle down with by, well, in the United States, 30 years old is the average age of first marriage, right? So between 29 and 31, somewhere in there, that she's got to find somebody to settle down with for the long term. And so she's got a window of opportunity, at least in the legal sense, from the time that she's 18 till she's about 29 years old. That's why we use that as a prime demographic when we're trying to assess like sexual dynamics. We're not looking at folks who are 30 and beyond. In fact, you're basically invisible once you get past the 18 to 29 demographic. But why do we use that as the prime demographic? Well, that's because that's the window of opportunity for women. That's when women have the most potential to find a guy that they can consolidate on and settle down with at some point. And we presume that the only reason women have sex, no matter what Dr. David Buss says, and whatever the chick is who wrote the book, the long and the short of it is that women need to solve or resolve their reproductive problems, and they have to do so in a time frame, in a window of 18 to 29, and they've got to figure it out while they're still in that prime, while they can still do that. Are there still women who can? Yes, there's plenty of hot chicks who are like between 30 and 35 and 45 years old. You can find them. I can point you to Jamie Villamore, and you would be surprised. But they are very rare exceptions. Very few, very far between. And I don't know if I have the video on tap, but there was this woman who was crying in her car recently because she's 52 years old and she's waiting for her partner. She won't even say the man or a husband, it's partner. And has never been married, no kids, no nothing, no baggage, blah, blah, blah. Why am I single? Well, because you're a bitch. If you're still single at 52 years old, and you haven't figured out that maybe the problem is there's one unique continuous factor in those 52 years, and that is you. So maybe it's time to start doing a little bit of personal work and figuring out what it is about yourself. Guys don't want to get into the long term with you, right? Well, so we got this one woman who's crying about this. It's because she was unable to optimize her 18 to 29-year-old windows and her demographics. And so what happens is like, just because you found a guy who is a good long-term prospect, like that black woman who was just explaining how God said that this is not your one, this is not your husband. That's a woman who got with a guy who is unexciting. Who was probably a great dude. He was probably loyal to a fault, beta as fuck, but like supportive, loved her unconditionally, wanted to have babies with her, wanted to have all, like, was too fucking perfect. Oh, God said that he's not really my soulmate. He's not the one I'm supposed to be with. Well, who is? Jason Momoa, the short-term guy, the guy who fucking rocks her world in bed, the guy who fucking just grabs her fucking hair and rides her to glory. That guy, that's the one that God wants her to be with, apparently, right? You're goddamn right. Yeah, that's the man you're supposed to be with. Not this guy. Not the guy you settled on.